The wind was howling that night, cold enough to cut through a man's bones. And on the bridge over Cherry Creek, 75 masked men stood silent, their breath rising like ghosts in the dark. No judge, no jury, just a rope and a reckoning. Charles Bannon didn't beg, didn't fight. Maybe he knew it was coming, maybe he thought he had it coming. The rope was coarse, tight around his throat. The bridge creaked beneath his feet, old wood struggling against the weight of the moment. A moment that had been building for nearly a year. Then, with nothing more than a shove, he was gone. The body swung once, then twice, then hung still against the bitter wind. Justice had been served, at least that's what the town of Schafer believed, but justice don't always come clean. And this is the story of how it came to that night, a story of trust betrayed, of lies, murder, and a town pushed past its patience. Out here in North Dakota, a man's farm is his legacy. And for Albert Haven, it was something he built with his own two hands. A good man, by all accounts, hard-working, fair, a man who provided, his wife Lulia and their 5 children, Daniel, Leland, baby Mary. They were the kind of folks who made a town feel like home, the kind who didn't turn a man away, no matter where he came from. So when a 22-year-old drifter named Charles Bannon showed up at the Haven farm one winter, looking for work, Albert took him in. Maybe he should have thought twice. At first, Bannon fit in just fine, helped with the chores, ate at the family's table, even played with young Charles now and then. But then, something changed. One cold February day, the Haven family simply vanished. Bannon had a story ready. Said the Havens packed up and left for Oregon, that they were looking for a fresh start. At first, folks believed him. Times were tough, families moved on. But then came the questions, the mail that went unanswered, the farm that sat empty, except Bannon was still there, selling off their cattle, their grain, even their furniture. And then, like a wolf sniffing out opportunity, his father, James Bannon, arrived. Moved in like he owned the place. The whispers started, then the rumours. But whispers don't make an arrest. Not yet. Still, in a town like Schafer, truth don't stay buried forever. It took 10 months before the law finally stepped in. Bannon wasn't arrested for murder. No, not yet. Just grand larceny, stealing what wasn't his. But that was enough. Because once the sheriff got to searching the Haven farm, the truth started crawling out of the dirt. The first thing they found was bones, frozen solid, tangled in manure, half hidden in the cold North Dakota ground. Then they found the rest, beneath the shed, in shallow graves hastily dug, the Haven family. Every last one of them murdered. And Bannon? He had a lot to say after that. First he claimed he didn't know nothing. Then he blamed a stranger. Then he said it was an accident. And finally, he told the truth. He had killed Daniel Haven first. And when the rest of the family figured it out, he killed them too, one by one, just to cover his tracks. But there was one question left. Had his father helped him? Because James Bannon had been living on that farm for months. And it's hard to ignore the smell of death when you're living right on top of it. January 29th, 1931. The town had waited long enough. The law might have taken Charles Bannon, but justice was coming on its own terms. 75 men, faces hidden beneath cloth masks, walked through the night. They didn't need words, they had purpose. When they reached the jail, the sheriff barely put up a fight. Maybe he understood, maybe he agreed. Bannon didn't scream, didn't fight, but in the end he had one thing to say: not my father, spare him. The mob didn't care about James. Their justice had one name carved into it, and that name was Charles Bannon. They wanted to hang him where he killed the Haven family. But when they reached the farm, a shotgun was waiting, a single man standing guard, and the mob Well, they weren't looking for a fight. They had one job to do, and they weren't going to waste it. So they took him to Cherry Creek Bridge instead. There in the dead of winter beneath a black sky, they tied the rope around his neck. No prayers were spoken, no final words, just a shove. By dawn, Charles Bannon was dead. The sheriff found Bannon's body still hanging there in the morning. They cut him down, buried him in an unmarked grave. Like that could erase what he did. The governor called it a disgrace, but the town, they called it justice. No one named names. No one ever would. James Bannon, he got life in prison, served 20 years before they let him out. And North Dakota, well, it would never see another lynching again. The Schafer jail still stands, rusting away, empty cells holding the echoes of that night. The bridge, too, still there, stretching over Cherry Creek, the wind howling through the wood. And if you stand there long enough in the dead of night, you might hear it. The creak of the rope, the whisper of a name long forgotten, and the sound of justice swinging in the wind.
And there you have it, another strange, bizarre, and almost unbelievable moment in history. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments. The universe is full of mysteries, and trust me, we've barely scratched the surface. Craving more strange, unexplained, and downright mind-bending tales? Subscribe and ring the bell. It really helps keep the stories coming. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and never stop looking for the truth.